The first thing I wanted to bring up is this story of Pope Francis apparently, allowing priests to bless same sex couples. And that may have been the headline you saw everywhere. But let's talk about what that means and why or why not. Is this a big deal? Why or why not? So he just turned 87. Pope Francis is now 87 years old. And the New York Times described this new move on his part as a way to make the Roman Catholic Church more welcoming to LGBTQ Catholics. Specifically, they pointed out that this declaration, let's see if I could get this here. This, whoopsie, there we go. This declaration is a rare, of course, I'm screwing this up somewhere. Nah, screw it. I'll just talk my way through it. He said this new declaration opens the door to certain types of blessings for same-sex couples. There are a number of pro-LGBTQ priests, but how pro they are is limited because the Catholic Church doesn't allow them to be fully supportive. But one of them pointed out that, along with many priests, I will now be delighted to bless my friends in same-sex unions. So this sounds nice. It sounds good. The question is, what does it actually do? Here's what you should know about all this stuff. A couple of years ago, in 2021, the Vatican actually said this was a horrible idea. This is a document posted by the Vatican, and you could see right here, the church recalls that God himself never ceases to bless each of his pilgrim children in this world, because for him, we are more important to God than all of the sins that we can commit. But he does not and cannot bless sin. So that was a couple of years ago. The Vatican rejected the idea that you could ever bless same-sex couples, trans people, because they believe all that stuff is sinful and the church cannot bless sin, which is why, like, this week's pronouncement seemed to be such a big deal, because now it's saying, you know what? We're okay. We're okay with that. You can bless same-sex couples. You can also bless, by the way, irregular couples. That's the terminology they use, which refers to, straight couples who are a Catholic and a non-Catholic who get married, and they did not get married in the church. Technically, they're not allowed to get blessed either, but the door is now open for priests to bless them if they feel like it. But I do think the problem I had with this headline and the story making news everywhere is that I think it's giving the Catholic Church too much credit, at least a lot more credit than it actually deserves. And I think that's largely by people who don't understand just how bigoted the church is on these issues. Like, what use is it to move a baby step in the right direction after centuries of taking giant leaps backwards, in the other direction? So yeah, we could celebrate incremental progress, but let's not pretend this is a bigger deal than it actually is. And so I think it is important. Let's talk about what the church actually believes, because none of that has ever changed. And this is the thing you need to see. This is from the Catechism. This is from the rule book of the Catholic Church. And I know it's like tiny little font here, but we're going to try to read this. Look at what it says starting in the middle here. Basing itself on sacred scripture, which presents homosexual acts as acts of grave depravity, tradition has always declared that homosexual acts are intrinsically disordered. They are contrary to the natural law. They close the sexual act to the gift of life. They do not proceed from a genuine, effective, and sexual complementarity. Under no circumstances can they be approved. So that's what the church says about two gay people in a relationship. They can exist, but if they ever consummate that relationship, it is forbidden by the church. They will not celebrate your relationship. That's why the Catholic Church will not bless same-sex marriages. That's why they don't like it when gay couples try to adopt kids. I mean, that is what their position is. None of that has changed at all. By the way, when it comes to trans people, the church is no better. This is a similar, this is from an article, but it's a similar statement. This is from 2019. But in June of 2019, the Vatican released a document on trans people, while including a call for love and respect. The document rejects the idea that gender is distinct from biological sex. A transgender identity, the document asserts, seeks to annihilate the concept of nature. So that's the Catholic Church's position on trans people. They're annihilating all of nature right there. So that said, there is this growing divide between the Catholics who are part of the Vatican hierarchy and the Catholics who actually pay the bills, who are in the pews. Just to throw out some numbers here, I won't bother you by showing you the graphs, but these are all from Pew Research, the Pew Research Center. 61% of U.S. Catholics support marriage equality, despite what the Catholic Church says about it. 76% of Catholics believe society should be accepting of homosexuality. 37% of US Catholics accept the existence of trans people. And I know that sounds low, but that is in line with pretty much all of America. And it's 37% higher than what the Vatican ever wants to see. I think what is happening this week is that the Vatican is trying to figure out how they can keep those people in the fold while also holding on to all their bigotry, right? Because just last month, the Catholic Church said trans people could even be baptized in certain situations. I mean, it's a breadcrumb they're offering to people who are starving, but also all these people in the church know there's better food outside the faith, if you know what I'm saying. So, they're trying to do these small things to appease LGBTQ people. But really, I think this is more geared towards straight people who are really bothered by the church's positions on LGBTQ people. So the new pronouncement basically amounts to priests can say some magic words to same-sex couples, but they're not going to promote their actual relationship. They're not going to promote the idea of marriage. They're not going to promote the idea of building a family or adopting kids or anything like that. And they are definitely not supporting the act of consummation between same-sex couples. You may as well just bless two men or two women who are total strangers, because that's kind of what they're doing here. I'm sure it'll make some gay couples who are still going to church, I'm sure it'll make them happy, especially if they have parents and relatives to appease. But really, come on, that's 6 people in the world still. Who is this for? Who are these gay couples who remain in the church, despite everything the church believes about them, who are we're in a relationship, but we're not going to get married, and we're never going to have sex. And also, we really want a priest to say some magic words over us. The same priest, by the way, who would never marry them if they wanted to take their relationship to a different level. Again, who is this for? It's not for gay people. It's for Catholics with a better sense of morality than the Pope. That's who this is for. The people who receive blessings want this symbolic measure of good luck. But honestly, if you're a gay couple and you want blessings and you want good fortune, you know how to get it. It's not from a priest doing this over you. It's by leaving the church, which is standing in the way of LGBTQ rights and same-sex equality and all of that altogether. If you left the church, you'd be way better off than remaining in the church and getting a blessing. Here's the metaphor I can come up with, and you can fight me on this. I think the Catholic Church, by making this move, they're like the theological equivalent of Nikki Haley running for president right now, because there are some Republican women applauding Nikki Haley for her moderate stance on abortion, which is not moderate at all. She's basically saying, well, I don't think a federal abortion ban is feasible. I'm not for, a federal ban on everything after conception, only because she doesn't think it's something the legislature could ever pass. So she kind of whiffs on the subject, tries to get around it. But the truth is, if anyone's applauding her for being a moderate on abortion, you would be better off voting for a Democrat, any of them, if you cared about abortion rights. Are we seriously supposed to applaud the fact that Nikki Haley isn't entirely off the deep end? She's just at the bottom of the pool. GOP voters who think she is their party savior are deluded. And my point is, so are Catholics who believe the Pope's announcement will make any difference to gay people in an institution that is inherently bigoted against gay people. Let me show you the actual document we are talking about here. It has a fancy little name here. It's called the Fiducia Supplicans, which means restoring trust, requesting trust, I should say. And it says specifically when people ask for a blessing, here we go. When people ask for a blessing, an exhaustive moral analysis should not be placed as a precondition for conferring it. For those seeking a blessing should not be required to have prior moral perfection. And you know what? That's not a bad thing to say. Like, nobody's perfect. Who are we to judge? All that stuff. And that's not that much of a change from the past, though. Like, the church has routinely blessed people whom they deem sinners because they don't really do a background check on adulterers or single women who had abortions but whose pregnancies were not visible, drug users who are not clearly using drugs or anything like that. So, straight people who commit sins that the Catholic Church finds problematic, they can get blessings all the time because no one cares what they do in their private lives. But when it comes to gay people, like, and you're holding hands, now the church is like, no, you can't do it. Like, a lot of priests, by the way, have been blessing same-sex couples for years now because that is how they interpreted the catechism anyway. They already say, I don't care if you happen to be a sinner, we're all sinners, so I will bless you anyway, because if you're requesting God's blessings, who am I to deprive you of those? And so they already interpreted the move this way. It's some conservative Catholic priests who are saying, no, I can't do this, I wouldn't do this. And even now with the Pope saying you can if you want to, those same priests are not going to start doing it all of a sudden. So all of this is to say the document is not a bad one. It's just not that big of a change. It doesn't make life better for gay people, though. In fact, if gay people remain in the church because they can now get blessed, I would argue they are directly contributing to their own demise because the church doesn't want them to have a real relationship and actively fights against same-sex rights. The church even says this later in the document. This is almost funny to read because there are restrictions on when priests can give the blessings. Let me show you this. In any case, precisely to avoid any form of confusion or scandal, when the prayer of blessing is requested by a couple in an irregular situation, even though it is expressed outside the rites prescribed by the liturgical books, this blessing should never be imparted in concurrence with the ceremonies of a civil union. I'll pause for a second. They're saying if the gay couple got a civil union and now wants to get blessed, you can't give them the blessing because it's kind of like too close for comfort. That makes it sound like you're endorsing their civil union. And certainly not in connection with them. Nor can these blessings be performed with any clothing, gestures, or words that are proper to a wedding. Wouldn't want to give anyone the wrong idea there. The same applies when the blessing is requested by a same-sex couple. So basically, this has to be done spontaneously. If the priest is in the mood to give out blessings, then a gay couple could walk up and say, oh yeah, we want some of that too. But if a gay couple says, hey, we're gay, can you bless us? The priest isn't allowed to do it. Again, I ask you, why are people treating this like it's a big deal when seriously, it's really a nothing burger altogether? Like, if a gay couple wants a blessing, fine. But if a gay couple wants to get married, they are screwed. If they want to build on their relationship, they are screwed, at least in accordance with Catholic rules. I guess the only silver lining to all of this is that traditionalists are so mad at the Pope this week, even though this change doesn't amount to much. So I guess, like, yay, Pope, for pissing off the right people. I guess that's a good thing. I just don't think the Pope deserves any more credit than he deserves here because he hasn't done anything all that big. And I worry that even some secular people, people who don't pay attention to the Catholic Church as well, I saw them giving the Catholic Church a lot of props as if they were moving in a good, positive direction. The church is as bigoted as it has always been. This is a small thing, a small token that they are offering to appease people. And it bothers me that it is working on some very gullible people who think the church is somehow more welcoming to gay couples, gay people. They are not. They're still awful on this issue. Not all Catholics, mind you, the Catholic hierarchy, the Vatican, the Pope, they are as bigoted as always. So don't treat this like that big of a deal. It is not.